In 2020, college football hung by a thread. A global pandemic silenced stadiums, fractured schedules, and dimmed the sports' pulse. Player opt-outs reshaped rosters. The Big Ten delayed its start until Week 8, as well as Notre Dame's admission to the ACC marked a season of upheaval. But what if we could rewrite the story? What if we could restore the chaos, passion, and dreams of the 2020 season by giving teams the stages that they deserve to make it happen? Welcome to Backtrack, a channel where we backtrack through history to explore what-ifs, crafting alternative timelines that breathe life into lost moments. This is our reimagined 2020 season, a saga of defiance, upsets, and redemption unfolding week by week as we follow the momentum of this epic journey. To make this happen, we'll be using NCAA's 14 Dynasty mode with 2020 modified rosters. We're reimagining the 2020 season as a narrative, not a simulation. We're constrained by the game's 2013 schedule in Dynasty mode, but we are making the select rearrangements to align the 2020 divisions as they were in real life, such as Notre Dame joining the ACC, but this time it will be in the Atlantic Division. James Madison replaces FIU, and the Big Ten kicks off in Week 1, defying the real-life delay. The players and teams that opted out for that season remain the same, reflecting the roster challenges of that season. One of the workarounds using this game is the fact that it uses the BCS system. We opted to set it to make it with no bowl tie-ins. Instead, we're forging our own college football playoff with 8 teams instead of 4, modeled by the same rules as the 12-team format last season, with top seeds, buys, campus site games, guided by the AP and coaches poll. Each week, we'll spotlight key matchups as chapters in a season-long story, weaving cinematic moments, drives, heroics, and upsets into tales of triumph and turmoil. Today, we begin weeks 1 and 2 and an official Week 1 kickoff and beyond, setting the stage for a season of unpredictability. Week 1 kicks off with number 7 Penn State on the road at the Carrier Dome, a potential trap game that could trip up the Nittany Lions. Without star linebacker Micah Parsons, are they still a powerhouse, or will Syracuse home field advantage take over? Penn State would get the ball first, and they would come out hot as Sean Clifford launches a 36-yard pass to Jahan Dotson, who weaves through defenders to set up shop for Syracuse. Later on in the drive, it would be capped off as Journey Brown punches it in for a first score, making it 7-0. Clifford would get the ball back as he would find Cam Sullivan-Brown for a 38-yard gain that opens up the field. Clifford would take matters into his own hands, running a quarterback power to extend the lead to 14. Rex Culpepper launches a 35-yard pass to Ed Hendricks, flipping the field, eyeing the red zone. But the Penn State defense keeps swarming Culpepper, and this time forcing a sack fumble, getting the ball back quickly. As yet again, he would find Dotson for a 40-yard strike that sets up Devin Ford's outside handoff, pushing the lead to 24-0 heading into the half. Coming out of the half, Syracuse tries to fight back as Rex Culpepper scrambles for 17 yards, their longest run of the day yet. Then finds Anthony Quealy for a 44-yard pass, putting them in Penn State's red zone. The Nittany Lion defense strikes yet again with another sack fumble, their third sack of the day and their second takeaway. The Syracuse defense tries to hold their own and even forcing a 4th and 9. But Penn State is very cavalier as they would push it as Sean Clifford goes for it, finding Parker Washington to convert. But later on, the drive would stall and they would have to settle for 3. In the 4th, Syracuse breaks through as Jordan's 19-yard touchdown run, followed by Culpepper's 23-yard pass to Nakeem Johnson, cuts the lead to 27-14. Penn State answers with a field goal, extending it to 30-14. And in the clutch, to put the game out of reach, Sean Clifford scrambles for a 35-yard touchdown run, weaving through defenders for a 37-14 route. This game answers a few early questions as who would fill the void for Penn State, as it looks like Sean Clifford on offense leads the charge in this game with 200 yards through the air and 85 yards on the ground, and getting everybody involved as Cam Sullivan-Brown and Dotson had big days, as well as scores from Journey Brown and Devin Ford. The defense looks to fill the holes left behind by Micah Parsons, as in a couple of weeks they will face UCF at Beaver Stadium, which promises to be a good matchup. Over in Arlington, the rain is pouring as the 2019 champs, number 6 LSU, take on TCU. TCU starts off with the ball, but it's a rough go. Max Duggan gets sacked and fumbles, handing LSU a short field to work with. Finley hands it off to Tyron Davis-Price, who is stopped before the goal line, setting up Finley to dive in for a 7-0 lead. TCU in the next drive pushes them, but the defense for LSU holds up, only giving up 3 points. As they will get a little bit bold, going for it on 4th down, with Duggan looking for Quentin Johnson in the rain, but the ball slips through. The Tigers pounce, with Finley and Jontre Kirkland connecting and slicing through the TCU defense. They march down the field as Finley would find Cole Taylor to cap off the drive for a 2-yard touchdown pass. TCU's next drive would stall, and LSU adds a field goal before the half, extending it to a 2-touchdown margin, 17-3. Coming out of the half, TCU finds a spark with a 48-yard kickoff return, setting them up nicely. Duggan scrambles for a huge gain, then hits Johnston, who blows past the secondary before being stopped right outside the goal line. Duggan punches it in, calling his own number, making it a 17-10 score. LSU doesn't panic as Finley caps a quick drive to answer, finding Jeray Jenkins, pushing the lead back up to 14. TCU would get the ball back, having them to settle for a field goal, making the score 24-13. As time is not their friend, LSU's defense would lock them out, swarming Duggan and shutting down any hopes of a comeback. In the final moments, Davis-Price ices it with a touchdown run, giving them a big 31-13 victory on the road to build upon. The Tigers' front is ferocious, sacking Duggan 8 times, with Greg Clark taking him down 3 times alone. LSU's grit in the rain proves that they mean business in this reset. Finley shows poise beyond his ears, thrusted into the spotlight. While Penn State and LSU dominate, underdogs set the season ablaze. Nowhere more than in Columbus, as the Ohio State Buckeyes would welcome the Buffalo Bulls. In the shortened 2020 season, the Buckeyes compiled a 7-1 record en route to a national championship game bid. But in this reset, number 2 Ohio State faces the Bulls at Ohio Stadium, which seems to be a very easy warm-up game. But the Bulls probably didn't get the message, as they would force overtime, pushing the Buckeyes to the wall. Running back Jarrett Patterson is Buffalo's heartbeat, piling up 126 yards on the ground. In overtime, he breaks free for a crucial run, setting up the Bulls at the Ohio State 10. Quarterback Kyle Van Treese finds Antonio Nunn for the go-ahead touchdown in overtime, solidifying the upset as we see our first domino fall. The Buckeyes knocked out by the Buffalo Bulls, dropping them to 16. In the Good Sam kickoff, number 15 Oklahoma State faces Mississippi State. The Bulldogs fight back, securing a 29-26 overtime win. It would be Emmanuel Forbes stepping in front of a Spencer Sanders pass for a game-sealing interception, propelling unranked Mississippi State to number 23, while Oklahoma State slips down to 24. Meanwhile, out west, Utah State battles Utah in the Battle of the Brothers. Quarterback Austin Presley steals the show with 4 touchdowns, leading the Aggies late in a thrilling 31-28 upset sealed by a last-second field goal that boots Utah out of the top 25 and gives them state bragging rights for the year. Let's take a quick look at the standings after the opening week. Everyone moves up a spot, with Ohio State dropping down to 16. Oklahoma State drops down to 24, with unranked Mississippi State moving up to 23, and Utah dropping out of the polls completely. Look, it's only the first week, but this reset has already set the tone for the chaos that might ensue this season, with new storylines and new faces that might have not had the chance in real life. Week 2 brings us revival or ruin. Our first matchup takes us down to Atlanta in the Chick-fil-A kickoff, where number 10 Notre Dame, now full-time ACC members in this reset, face Georgia Tech in Atlanta. The Irish are chasing playoff dreams, but freshman quarterback Jeff Sims and tight end Dylan Devaney are ready to spoil the party. Tech gets the ball first and strikes fast as Sims hits Devaney, who would be his favorite target all day long, then finds Emery and Brown for a big gain on the opening drive, setting up a 1st and goal, and Sims goes back to Devaney for the first of his 3 touchdowns, putting the Yellow Jackets up early 7-0. Notre Dame would try to answer but would be forced for a 3-and-out, giving the ball back to Georgia Tech. The Yellow Jackets and Sims try to keep the pressure on as Sims finds Jalen Camp on a deep ball to set up Jahmyr Gibbs' touchdown, making it 14-0. The Irish would rally late in the first, with Ian Book connecting to Ben Skowronek for a solid gain, paving the way for Kyron Williams to punch it in to cut the lead to 7. We fast forward over to the second quarter as it's all Georgia Tech. Sims mixes pinpoint passes along with a ground game, hitting Malachi Carter through the air to flip the field and powering it in on a quarterback run for a touchdown to extend the lead to 21-7. Devaney is unstoppable, hauling his second and third touchdown catches, the last on the sharp flat route, ballooning the lead up to 35-7 going into the half. In the third, Notre Dame battles back, with Ian Book finding Avery Davis to set up a Chris Tyree touchdown run, closing it to 35-14. In what seems to be a rarity, Georgia Tech is forced on a 3-and-out, potentially giving Notre Dame a little bit of hope, but the Tech defense holds firm, only giving up 3. Sims seals it late, using his legs on a quarterback power run and a handoff to Jordan Mason for a touchdown, stretching it up to 42-17. Book and Williams add a score late, but on onside kick recovery for Notre Dame, it is short-lived as the Tech defense seals it with an interception by Caleb Oliver, wrapping a 42-24 win, dropping Notre Dame to 18 and bringing unranked Georgia Tech up to 22. Jeff Sims is a revelation. Over 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, and total command. Devaney and his 3 scores make Georgia Tech a real ACC threat, while Notre Dame's playoff hopes take a hit and have a rude awakening into the ACC. Our next matchups keeps us in state in Georgia as we travel north, where number 3 Georgia hosts South Carolina in an SEC rivalry. The Bulldogs defense is ready to dominate, but the Gamecocks are scrappy and look to spoil. The first quarter is a scoreless defensive slugfest, with both sides trading in 3-and-outs and sacks. South Carolina starts the second at midfield, but fumbles a fullback screen, handing Georgia a short field to work with. JT Daniels makes them pay as he finds George Pickens for a touchdown to go up 7-0. The South Carolina Gamecocks fire back, with Colin Hill finding Xavier Legette for a 40-yard gain, but the Georgia defense clamps down, forcing a field goal to make it 7-3. Daniels and Pickens would connect yet again for a 45-yard strike, setting up Zamir White's outside run for a touchdown to push the lead up to 14-3 before the half. Coming out of the third, it is a slow start up until Colin Hill hits Josh Vann for a big gain, but the drive itself stalls, having South Carolina to settle for 3 to cut the lead to 14-6. On Georgia's possession, they march down but face a 4th and 3, where they could opt to go for a field goal but take the risky choice as they go for it, forcing an incomplete, potentially giving South Carolina a little bit of hope. It seems that South Carolina now has the momentum as Hill finds Nick Muse, who moves the chain for the Gamecocks, but it will be short-lived as Colin Hill's interception to Monty Grice stops them cold. But the South Carolina defense would not let up as Kingsley Ignabarre forces a sack to give him potentially one last chance to come out with the victory. But Hill would throw a costly interception to Lewis Kine, which seals the 14-6 win, keeping Georgia at number 3. The story for this game was defense, in particular Georgia's defense, with Lewis Kine's fumble recovery and pick showed a championship grit. Pickens and White on offense stepped up, while South Carolina shows a little bit of fight late, which could stir some trouble as the season goes on. Our last matchup takes us down to Austin in an SEC Big 12 matchup, where number 13 Texas takes on Ole Miss. It is a quarterback battle as well, with Matt Corral facing Sam Ehlinger. Texas would get the ball first as they would draw first blood, as the drive would stall as they settle for a 3-0 field goal lead. Ole Miss answers back with Matt Corral capping off a drive on a scramble to make it 7-3. Texas would get the ball back as Sam Ehlinger mixes runs and passes, but the Ole Miss defense holds up strong. After a back and forth 3-and-outs, it wouldn't be up until the last second where Texas would cap off a drive, settling for 3 before the half. In the fourth quarter, Ehlinger and Bijan Robinson find a groove, pounding the ground and reaching to Ole Miss's red zone facing a 4th down. Texas goes for it, but the Rebel defense stands tall, forcing a turnover. Texas's defense responds as well, forcing a 3-and-out, giving Ehlinger one more shot. Ehlinger scrambles, then hits Jake Smith for a touchdown to tie it at 13-13 to push the game to overtime. Overtime itself was pure chaos, as both quarterbacks would fumble in the first overtime, leading to a second. Texas's turn as Ehlinger finds a gap, hitting Cade Brewer for a touchdown, taking a 20-13 lead, their first lead since the first quarter. Matt Corral answers quickly as he finds Drummond to set up Jonathan Mingo's slant route touchdown to tie the game at 20. In the third overtime, where 2-point conversions are a must, Ole Miss's Parrish Jr. scores, but their try fails, leaving an opportunity for Texas to come out with a victory. Ellinger connects with Jake Smith on a blown coverage, then finds Joshua Moore on a slant for the game-winning 2-point conversion, clinching a 28-26 quadruple overtime thriller, keeping Texas at number 13. This game shows what college football is in a nutshell: the unpredictability and what we always thrive for, exciting finishes. For Texas, Ellinger shows poise, mixing runs, clutch passes, and his leadership as it carries Texas through, and potentially something to build upon for their Big 12 campaign and even championship aspirations. And for Ole Miss, they showcase the fight and resilience within that, and potentially could be SEC spoilers and something to build upon even with this tough loss. Number 16, Ohio State is back in action against the San Diego State Aztecs in Columbus, unloading a 34-7 beatdown with Justin Fields had 2 touchdowns on the ground to cap off the win. Last week was Ohio State. This week is Oklahoma, as they would be upset, knocking them from number 4 versus West Virginia in a 13-6 defeat. The Mountaineers' defense smothers the Sooners, allowing just 2 field goals. A late touchdown seals the upset, dropping Oklahoma to 16. Ohio State moves up 2 spots to 14, and Notre Dame drops down to 18. And new ranked Georgia Tech is 22. Georgia and Texas hold their spots. Both Cincinnati and Mississippi State drop out of the top 25. These are only the first 2 weeks, but look at the pandemonium within them. As we look forward to week 3, the top 2 teams are in action, with Texas A&M traveling to Tuscaloosa to play against Alabama in primetime, and Clemson goes on the road to face North Carolina in what seems to be a potential good game on hand. There's so many dope matchups in store for week 3, so please don't miss our 2020 saga as we continue on this journey, reliving every heart-pounding moment. Subscribe, hit the bell icon, and follow our Clips channel and other social media outlets for more content, and thank you.